Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. Come explore the roadmap of our shifting consciousness where self-actualization, exposing your talents and gifts is the norm. Now here's your host, Angela Blaha.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. Angela Blaha here with Renee Keene. Thank you, Renee, for joining us again today.
Well, thank you again.
Yes. So we want to talk about boldness and how being bold at a certain level of I don't give a shit about what it is that I have to do. I'm just here to fulfill my mission and my purpose. And that, I think, takes a certain level of boldness. Like you don't care about who's going to come after you to say, no, that's the wrong answer. Or you don't really care about, if you're going to lose friends or people in your life, and you're just here fulfilling your mission and your purpose. Now, you and I both know a guy in Peru who literally is like that.
Yes.
Ruben is one of those people who is like, he's here to fulfill that mission and purpose, and he don't care about anything else.
Nope.
Like he's so super focused. And we just listened to a podcast that was in that same manner, but this was a woman who was like that. And I wish I had that. To be honest, I wish I actually had that level of conviction, because I think it's going to take that level of conviction. Well, we know our healer, one of our healers, is like that too. She went off into the forest for
Yes.
totally got rid of her family and went out into the forest and just, discovered and became very confident in it. And it takes that level, I feel, in order to make this shift in consciousness. Now, not every one of us is going to go and do those kinds of things, right? But what is it that we can do that will support those people so that literally it becomes, if they're willing to step out and take the front row, why not support them, right? Why not support that level of conviction? So what's your experience with that?
Well, I want to say that you are one of the people that I see most closely modeling that, for me anyway. You say it like it is, Angela. I mean, you don't mince words, and no. You always you're very concise, and what you see is what you share. And I think, well, when you can. But it's like that is a level of conviction that I think you're spot on with. Until we can really be our authentic self, speaking to what we authentically know, which may or may not match other people, and to be able to do that without looking at if it matches, or am I in the flow, or am I doing what everybody thinks is it. It's like that is what's going to move this world forward. That's what's propelling us. And is to just step into our mission. I'm actually moving into something like that in the next little bit here. When I did some work this past week, I heard a very specific message about something I'm supposed to do. I understand the role that I have accepted, or my mission is to be a navigator and to assist in navigating through things and assisting people in that manner, not doing their work for them. I am not doing anybody's work but my own, which is my own work in helping others navigate. And it's very clear to me that that's probably going to look a little odd to some people.
Well, I think that I feel like I don't carry their level, like my teachers, I don't feel like I carry their level of conviction. It's not the conviction portion. I'm very convicted and I'm very focused in this shift in consciousness. I've known it for my whole entire life. I knew that it would come sooner or later, and here we are. And I know how to create a path for others if they're willing to take that ascension path. the boldness of that I think we have to embody it. I'm not at that level of boldness. Like I would not be, I would probably be in the moment. Here's what happens when I start to channel, like stuff just comes out, right? Like it just, the whole consciousness just like gets blurted out. And then it's later afterwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did we say that? Like why did I put it in that way? I could have put it in this way. My whole mind starts to take over. My emotions start to take over. And then I have to literally stop myself and say, look, this is our path. This is our truest form of how we need to proceed, and stop getting in the way of that. And then, it takes a couple of days usually if I say something that's like, ooh, that's a trigger. It takes a couple of days probably sometimes to like sort of get okay with that. But then it's like, it's already done. Why are we fussing about it? But at the same time, when we're talking about self-actualization and talking about, like the whole shock and awe of knowing your own truest self, that whole consistency and being very committed to yourself, like it takes boldness, like it takes that level of confidence. It takes a certain level of intrigue, and that commitment, that conviction really has to be stable, I feel, in order for, when we're moving into great expansive energy, and not being afraid of the expansive energy. Like I've never been afraid of creation. I have been afraid of limitation. Like that scares the living daylights out of me, because I think I have cell memory that says, you know what, this is what you did. This is how the harm was created. This is how the wounds were created. I can see those kinds of things. That stuff scares the living daylights out of me. I need boldness in order to go back in time. And even though I'm an Akashic Records reader, and I could see the wounds that are, and all the limitations that have been created over time, like it takes boldness. Like the very first time I went to Peru and had all the memory of like separation, and like that was a really hard time for me, because I had to literally look at what was created and I didn't see it as harm at that time. I experienced and felt all I remember saying to myself was, I can't believe that we took this road. I can't believe that we took this road, right? Like this whole creation of limitations, like what would be the purpose of it? Like I couldn't understand the whole purpose.
What were we thinking?
Right, exactly. Because it does create turmoil, it creates chaos, it creates harm, it creates, it creates all the negative things that we don't really want in life. At the same time, coming to where we are today in our ascension process, I can understand why we would do that. But how do we pull ourselves out of that now? And that's really where I think the conviction to the creating of, non-duality, the space of more unified, which is really what the blueprint, how we started the blueprint was, creating a more unified world. Or a unified being inside of a world is really how it works. And that to me was like, it was easy. It was like, oh yeah, this is easy to create this. But how do we get rid of those limitations, those old belief systems? That's where the boldness, I think, comes in.
And being willing to step into that boldness.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes we consider ourselves brave when we take a step in a direction, but the boldness is one step further. Because it's actually being, as you said, committed to it. You can be brave and step forward and go like, I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to look at this a little bit, and I'm going to move out of my safety zone back here and be brave. But when we can move beyond that and actually be bold in stating our convictions, in living our convictions, in doing whatever it takes, that's when changes happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you brought up. Bravery means that I think that's an internal thing that
Mhm.
we find bravery to move forward or to look at our belief systems, to look at, something that's possible outside of what we think we can do.
Mhm.
But the boldness literally does come in when you can literally state it to the world and say, look, this is what has to happen. This
Mhm.
is how, I think that level of, I think conviction drives boldness. At least for me, that's how it works. Is when I become very, very focused in on, shifting consciousness and how can I literally shift consciousness through the emotional body, particularly because that's where all of my education resides. How can I shift consciousness spiritually? Because I so intuitive, that's like, and you are too, like that's how there's a conviction there, right? Like,
Yes.
he's just be able to see the past, just be able to see yourself for who you are, see your power. Like that is very fearful for people, is to see their power, their real power. And I think it takes boldness to step into, um, you know, if you're telepathic, which you're very good at being telepathic, like there's a level of boldness that it takes to say, oh, hold on, I know everybody's thoughts. Okay, where do I focus in here? It's like, and without feeling like you're crazy, right? Like getting so much information in your head and without feeling like you're stepping off of the edge into some other deeper mucky water that you can't pull yourself back out of. So this level of boldness, I think, plays a large part in understanding our own power.
Hugely, hugely. And it's that next process, if you will, or next step that I move into or have moved into or continue to move into in
Yeah.
the being bold with actually stating out loud that, okay, you're great to think how you want, believe what you want. I'm not telling you have to think or be like me, but to be able to say, this is who I am. This is where I am. This is what I believe. This is what I know to be true for the advancement or it's not even advancement. This is what I know to be true if we're all going to become unified.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be the same as anyone else. And it's been very interesting as I've been practicing this with people who I think are going to like hit the ground running if I make a certain statement. They just kind of look at you and say, whoa, what did you say again? So that fear I had about expressing myself, my authentic self, is not being lived
Mm-hmm.
because people are actually saying, well, what did you say? Tell me more. And then you move into that. And anybody that doesn't want to isn't running away either. They're just like, oh, okay. And that's that bravery, or not bravery. That's the boldness piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's the boldness piece. Being able to actually verbalize.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I am. This is what I do. I love you no matter what. And if people choose to go a different direction, let's say, like our healer friend, her family kind of all said, see ya, bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But now they're starting to come back around.
They are.
And so,
They are.
yeah. So, I think that if we can leave judgment out,
Yes.
right? If we can leave judgment, like our own judgment about how things may land with someone else, and if we just trusted the universe that it would land appropriately, like other cultures, here's what I've known traveling throughout the world. Other cultures don't care about how it lands.
That's true.
Have you noticed? Like,
Yes.
you and I have traveled several different places. They just say stuff.
Mhm.
They don't even care. There's no filter there that says, oh, am I being politically correct, or am I going to offend this person or that person? Or,
Mhm.
they just trust the universe so much. And the places that we have traveled are pretty much places where they live according to the universe. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And I think that that makes a huge difference in their level of boldness, right? Their level of conviction, even, because
Mhm.
they're very, very clear in their minds and in their hearts and in their souls about why the heck they are here. Like, there's no confusion about that.
Nope.
None. And they know very well that this is what their mission and purpose is in life, and they are very convicted to it. And they don't have that judgment about not even themselves, about carrying out their conviction, about carrying out their mission and purpose, or about how whatever they're going to say lands to someone else. They don't even have that. So what makes that different compared to, us here in the US? I've often wondered, like, what's the difference other than they live according to the universe?
So this is just a question that's being posed in my head at the moment. It's like, is it that in the US, for the most part, we say you can do or be anything you want? Like, we make the field so big and so broad that it's like there's no pinpointing in a direction. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just asking it. It's like, while that's a good thing to understand that you can do and be whatever it is you want,
Right.
it feels like here it's so big and so broad that, when you see someone doing something that they're excellent at, and you can just read it in their energy that this is you, this is all about you. It's like we don't have that guidance, I'm going to call it, that says, hey, you are awesome at this. Have you thought about going this direction? It's been more of like, oh, your college material, go to school. Or, oh, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that that's partly true.
Partly?
I think that also, if you look at all the people that we've experienced in the other countries, they all have teachers at a very young age, like
Yes.
personal shamans and personal
Yeah.
teachers. Like, that's a thing. Like, that's a whole cultural gift, I feel, that they give their children.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also helps you to sort of know and understand yourself at a much deeper level than we do here. And it creates that purpose. I think it lets you bring it from childhood into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And even though all of the people that we know in these other countries, like, they are very vast in their knowledge.
Oh,
They
yes.
are, right? Like, they're immensely vast.
Wise.
Yes. And they are very worldly, like,
Mm-hmm.
so much more worldly than we are here in the US, because we think that we are the world, but they are really worldly, and they are very universal. Like, they know universal law. They know how the patterns and rhythms work here, and they live their lives accordingly. And I think that their level of, like, it's just an innate boldness that they have, where here we try to work towards boldness. They're just, it's like a gift. Like, they're just their natural selves.
Their natural self is honored.
Yes.
Their natural
Yes.
self is respected. Their natural self is allowed to be,
It's allowed to grow.
Yes, as opposed to being kind of squished down, like, nope, that's not how we do it here.
Right.
And that's the big difference that I've noticed. It's like, at a young age, a very young age.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yep, go ahead, try that. Let's see.
Yeah, that's a great point. Their natural self is respected and honored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably the key.
That's a big piece. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
We've developed these other oddities in children are to be seen but not heard kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't exist in other places. Children are to be embraced and loved and revered in other places.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I think that that's a whole different level of, well, it's a natural conviction to themselves and a natural honoring of their own purpose and mission here. So
it
yeah.
allows them their boldness. Then they can be bold because they're allowed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like they fight about their boldness.
No.
That's the other thing. It's like like Ireland, for example, all the people there have this, like, if we were to look at it from a US perspective, it's very much they speak their mind.
Yep.
And they, like, we would call it probably arguing here, but they don't see it as arguing. They see it as, well, what if we had this advantage point? And they would speak like that. Like, they would speak openly about, well, what if we had this idea, or this concept, or what if we looked at it like this? And then they would share that, and then the other person has the ability to say yes or no to it. So there's like this open think tank constantly, and there's just growth and expansion and
For all.
Yeah. And it's more on a soulful level than it is on a human level. I feel like it's very, like, their boldness comes from their spirit in all the countries we've been in. Yeah, there's a whole different level of communication, not just because there's a language difference.
Yeah.
There's a whole different level of, like, even physical communication. Like, they speak with their bodies, and there's a wholeness, I feel, that creates a different level of soul conviction, a different level of consistency and commitment within themselves, and a whole different level of knowing how powerful they are as human beings.
I'm going to say one of the things that I've picked up that I've noticed that always intrigues me is when you're talking, they're looking right at you. So that you have that connection piece. There isn't this, I'm off over here, or I'm, whatever. It's like they want to have that discussion, and they want your opinion or your take on something. They aren't like, I want you to think like me. That's what we do. We want everybody to think like us. And over there, it's more about the exploration over there. In other countries, they want to see what you have to bring to the table. They want to understand if there might be a different piece, and they might say, hey, that's a really cool mission for you. My mission looks like this. It's a whole, kind of like a whole new way for me as I travel, whole new way of looking at life. At existence.
But I think that makes, when you don't have that self-judgment or the prejudgment of how something you're going to speak about lands to someone else, like, I feel like there's a whole different shift in consciousness that can actually take place. There's that strife, or that I don't know. There's no work when you're there and you're speaking about ascension or shifting consciousness or growth or creation. Like, there's that resistance you might feel it, a little bit of resistance, but there's still like an openness to it. There's an openness to the resistance. And I don't feel like we have that here in the USA. Like, I don't feel like if we have resistance, we have resistance. Like, there's a damn brick wall in front of you and you can't go beyond that.
Yep, been there.
And I feel like that's what we're attesting to today, is like, why do we have these brick walls? Like, we just listened to a podcast that was very bold, and the people are very much, and we just attended our healers this last week, both of us, and it's like, these people have this, like, they don't care what the resistance is. Like, they just don't even care what the resistance is. And I feel like that is the level that we all need to obtain in order for this shift in consciousness to actually take place, in order for the blueprint to, to literally change humanity and the track that humanity is on. We all need to embody that level of conviction in order for, in order for this to actually to make it happen.
And it's that piece that for me that I see, it's like, I've got to, and I'm working really at it and getting way good at it, I'm going to say, but second guessing myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're talking about. I think stop the second guessing.
Yeah.
What comes out. Don't second guess it. Don't wonder. I mean, we're humans, so sometimes that's exactly what happens, but it's in the allowing of what moves out. And it's like, wow, I did just say that, didn't I? Okay, well, it is what it is, but just want everyone to be encouraged to be who you are.
Yeah.
And know more about what your mission is. And your mission can change.
Yes.
Mine's shifted a number of times throughout. And your mission can definitely change. And then it's about understanding that.
Yeah, well, it changes to a deeper level.
Yes.
And I think that, last week you talked about being consistent and committed. It's being consistent and committed to your next level and allowing the next level to come in. It's not, I think that allowing component is really big in allowing yourself to be bold, to be seen and to be heard, to be like a leader of consciousness. I think that is that allowing. What are you allowing in has really been in my awareness this last week is what am I allowing? If I'm allowing people to have the resistance, right? Then why? Like, what's the purpose of allowing those kinds of people into my life? Even, I don't really need a resistance. I know what all the resistances are. I mean, I can conjure them up in my head if I really wanted to, but why? Why do I need that? I want people to come into my energy field who are very open, who are here to shift consciousness, who may need some space, somebody to hold space for them, or someone to encourage them, or someone to create a path even. And we actually move and shift. I don't need the resistance any longer. So that whole allowing component, I think, is also the component to receiving, like we talked about receiving a couple of weeks ago, and how we need to be open to the receiving component, and allowing is one of those aspects of that. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the boldness, here it comes, baby.
I think that it goes into the 2 weeks ago when we talked about the shock and awe of our real self. I think that this boldness component is one of the things that we're probably going to be shocked about ourselves when we start to literally be bold in the world and say, okay, enough is enough. Let's do this shift and let's move humanity into, a forward space versus this holding in backwards, stagnant, completely horrifying space. Was horrifying to me because I know what creation is. So I think that's the difference.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And we understand and we learn and we get to remember those things the deeper we dig into who we are.
Yeah.
The more we know about why I'm here. What is my purpose at this time in, this trajectory? What trajectory is the word I'm trying to come out of? What trajectory am I on as I move forward?
Yeah. Yeah, being telekinetic. Let's take that, for example. Like, I know that each one of us have the ability to be telekinetic, just like Jesus was in the Bible, just like some of the other great sages, where they can actually create stuff out of their hand. You can create an apple right here in your hand. That is power. That is your own natural abilities, gifts, and talents. Like that's self-actualization. And what we've experienced is the limitation of that. I know we all have that ability, but because we wanted to limit it and say, okay, well, what if we don't have those abilities? Then what happens in a world? Like, what happens, right? To a human race who doesn't have or know or remember their true power. That's where we're coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also takes like this, that's where the boldness can come in, is for you to say, oh, I'm telekinetic. I can create food right here out of air. I can create food right here out of water. Can you imagine a world? Well, I think that's what we need to imagine.
That's where we're going.
That's where the shift is, right? That's what the power of the shift is actually being back, actually creating a world that actually can do those kinds of things, who doesn't have any fear of the limitations any longer. Now, that, I'm sure there's a lot of resistance out there and a lot of naysayers who are like, yeah, that can never be achieved, right? We are never be able to do that, but we can. And that's the whole purpose of, I think, coming out of the limitation as a human race, is being able to do it in a human form, not just in an energy form or a frequency, right? We can actually do it in a physical form. And throughout the years, there have been great sages who have actually proven it. All we have to do in order to shift our consciousness is to start believing it. Because when you believe something, you can actually create it.
We can create whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
An apple in your hand, or that, cherry, whatever it is that you want.
Or
now,
a mountain.
I know that's possible. I have not gotten myself yet to that point where I can do that.
Yeah.
I can see things in the etheric field that it's forming and shaping there. Have not been able to bring it into the present.
That's where the boldness comes in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like we can do it. I mean, you talked about telepathy a little bit ago, Angie and I really we've really got it going, but we're open to it.
Mm-hmm.
We are open to receiving and sending messages that way. Now, some people are very guarded and they certainly don't want anybody sending them a message or asking them a question that way. So it's not going to be something that is revealed to them until they're ready to open.
And just for everyone's information, telepathic communication does not mean that I read Renee's mind all the time.
Oh, no.
That's not what that means. That means I am intentionally sending a message to her or asking her a question, and she intentionally sends it back to me. That's what telepathic communication is.
Absolutely.
It's not mind reading.
No, not at all. No.
I think we get fearful because we get things screwed up that way.
Good clarity. Thank you for saying that too, because it's like, no, we're not in each other's heads.
No, I don't need to be in anybody else's head but my own.
I've got enough going on in my own.
Exactly.
But there are skills that we all possess.
Yeah.
Abilities.
Yes. Abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I feel like this is a good talk on boldness and what it takes to shift our consciousness. And I think that we need to be embodying this level of boldness where you just trust the universe and you trust your own innate abilities and power to shift your consciousness, which ultimately will shift someone else's consciousness. But the boldness needs to come from no self-judgment and, being really consistent and committed to your own self. And allowing in and receiving that power of your own natural self. I think that's where the bottom line lies, is you being allowing and receiving, like there's real internal power when you become so confident that no matter what resistance comes forward, like you can overcome it.
I have something that I can share that happened last week for me.
Yes.
Now that we're having this discussion, I'm looking at that was bold for me. I have a very dear special friend whose sister was in the process of transitioning from ALS.
Mm.
And she just asked me a question. I can't even remember what she specified. Oh, I know her dad had transitioned before. And so she wondered if her dad was around during this process. And I just went right away into it. And I was like, yep. Now remember, your dad's in spirit. He can be in more than one place at one time. And I just specifically gave her where he was with each of the family members and where he was in their life. And it just came out. And it's someone who I'm not really sure if she would be, if I'd have thought about it, I don't know if I'd have done it that way. But she received it with such grace and appreciation. And it was like it just kind of lifted her because she knew that his spirit was with them as this process was taking place.
Yeah.
And that was bold for me to move into that. So it's as simple as that. Boldness doesn't mean you have to jump off a cliff and hope you live. It's simple little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And boldness doesn't mean bullying or thinking that you're the only one that's right. Boldness means that you have the courage, the internal courage to state what intuitively is being either presented, talked through you, seen, whatever, and you shift your own way of thinking and being, and possibly someone else's. That's really, But,
and that's just it. You can't. No one else can move on or even see things unless you present to them the side of you that you may have not been bold enough to share in the past.
Right. Exactly. That intuitive, natural self. We still have so much fear about that. I can't believe we're in 2023. We still have so much fear about trusting your own intuition. I just, it baffles me.
Well, and that's part of what I do and you do is we share these bits and pieces, drop these little seeds along that people can kind of go like, what'd she say?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I follow this conversation? And that just brings more into awareness, into seeing their own authentic self and presenting as they truly are, not as they want someone else to see them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. That seems complete. So,
all right.
Thank you so much, Renee, for joining again today.
Thank you.
And as always, you can find our links down below, and please share and like so that we can reach more and more people.
Thank you for being with us today. To find out more about Angela, visit her website at www.angelablaha.com.